NASA has expressed that currently is the ideal second to coordinate attention toward Venus, following new disclosures about the potential for life on the world. If you somehow manage to glance back at NASA's records from the 1960s, you would see that the office alluded to Venus as a planet from hell. In the meantime, Mars had emerged as a promising objective for exploration. Such brutal naming of far-off planets was generally normal during the intense space race period. The Soviet Union was also deeply involved in sending expensive missions to Venus, a planet that appeared to be practically devoid of any potential for life. By and by, the Soviet space program didn't abandon its Venera missions until the breakdown of the Soviet Empire. Thanks to astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, we finally understand the reasons for their interest. Join us as we dig into the declassified pictures from Venus, captured by the Soviet Union. The breakdown of the Soviet Union was significant in many regards. Not only did it alter the global political landscape, but it also concealed many secrets with it. The Soviet Union was known for its love of secrecy, from running one of the most refined intelligence agencies on Earth to remaining silent about possible extraterrestrial encounters. Thus, the former superpower held on to numerous secrets. In truth, before the US began to lead the way in planetary space exploration, the Soviet Union was at the cutting edge of the space race. While the USSR space program included both successes and failures, its primary focus was always on Venus, the mysterious and hostile planet. In Russian, Venus is known as Venera, which also became the name of the Soviet mission that spanned from 1961 to 1983. This happened during the very period when the US was focused on its efforts to reach the moon. The Soviets decisively chose to allocate their resources elsewhere during the space race. It's not entirely odd that the Soviet Union put so much emphasis on Venus. Were they possibly viewing the planet as a potential military base? Or were they perhaps interested in colonizing it? After examining any possible life forms, the true motivations behind their obsession with the planet remain unclear, as the Soviet Union was deeply entangled in the Cold War and their goals were not directly revealed. Much of what we know about the Soviet missions to Venus comes from declassified or unarchived records, and even then, it's difficult to pinpoint the exact reasons for their persistent efforts. The Soviets didn't just land on Venus once, twice, or even 3 times. In total, they launched 28 expensive rockets aimed at the planet, with 13 entering Venus' atmosphere. Of those, 8 missions successfully completed these aggressive and complex tasks, positioning the Soviet Union at the forefront of space exploration. The US, although a close competitor, was more focused on satellite technology and innovative infrastructure, while the Soviets concentrated on investigating the possibility of life on distant planets. Their interest in Venus was rooted in their pursuit of scientific discovery and technological dominance. Most history books may not tell you this, but the Soviet space program was the first to send a probe into the atmosphere of a planet beyond Earth. It also became the first country to achieve a soft landing on another planet. The USSR was the first to return images and sound recordings from another planet's surface. While these accomplishments are often overshadowed by later American feats, they were remarkable achievements in space exploration. In 1992, the Soviet Space Agency was officially disbanded following the dissolution of the USSR and was subsequently reformed under the new Russian name Roscosmos. Many of the historical records were either lost or destroyed during this transition, which is why many aspects of the Soviet space program remain shrouded in mystery. Although we may never know for certain why the Soviets launched so many spacecraft into Venus' atmosphere, it's likely their decision was driven more by cost-effectiveness than scientific curiosity. While the Soviet Union was obviously interested in exploring Venus, they were also looking for signs of water, solar radiation, and other environmental factors. Without these missions, it would have been difficult for scientists to understand Venus' extreme temperatures and thick atmosphere. Today, many astronomers still argue that Venus is too hostile to support life, with temperatures high enough to melt lead and an atmosphere thick with carbon dioxide. It's easy to dismiss the idea of life existing on Venus. However, to disregard the pioneering contributions of the Soviet space program is to erase an important chapter of history. For the Soviets, Venus was worth exploring even if just to fuel the space race. Studying planets like Mars was not entirely off the table, but it was certainly a more costly venture than launching missions to Venus. The vast distance between Earth and other celestial bodies was a major factor in deciding where to focus resources. Venus, on average, is only 40 million kilometers away from Earth, while Mars is about 250 million kilometers away. This dramatic difference in distance accounts for the significant costs associated with Mars exploration. Furthermore, the US's global financial strength made investigating Mars more feasible for them than for the Soviet Union. Some reports suggest that Soviet missions to Venus were problematic and faced significant technical deficiencies. Many of their spacecraft were not designed for covering vast interplanetary distances, and there were several instances of lost communication with rockets. Given these challenges, it makes sense that the Soviet space program would opt for a mission to a closer planet with a greater likelihood of success. However, to focus solely on the technical challenges would overlook the larger story behind the Venera missions. At the time the Soviet program began launching missions to Venus, the US was still largely focused on reaching the Moon. NASA's Venus missions during the 1960s were plagued by failures, leading to a phenomenon known as the Venus curse. Each time NASA launched a probe toward Venus, it ended in disaster. This is when the Soviet Union saw an opportunity to capitalize on the American failures and win a significant victory in the space race. The Soviets took advantage of NASA's struggles, ramping up their efforts to explore Venus. They saw Venus as a crucial victory in the space race, a planet that the US had dismissed. Despite their limited resources, the Soviets endured and launched a series of successful missions to Venus. In contrast, NASA's focus on the Moon led to a divergence in the space programs of the two nations. With both sides eager to outdo each other, the term hellish planet became linked to Venus in popular media, a phrase often used by the US to downplay Soviet accomplishments. This negative portrayal of Venus didn't deter the Soviet space program. Their goal was to prove their superiority over the US. Although the Soviet Union's missions to Venus are not as widely recognized today, they were incredibly ambitious and advanced for their time. The Venera missions marked the beginning of the space age. Starting in the 1950s, the Soviets developed the technology to send spacecraft to Venus. Over the next 30 years, they built and launched a series of interplanetary probes as part of the Venera program. Throughout this period, the Soviet Union optimized its resources, making significant strides in space exploration. By the mid-1960s, the Soviet Union had advanced far enough to launch Venera probes. The principal counterfeit test to enter Venus' air and effectively connect with the planet's surface. This accomplishment strengthened the space race between the two superpowers. Dissimilar to the US' frequently heartbreaking missions to Venus, the Soviet program kept on gaining ground in spite of a few specialized mishaps. The USSR's capacity to plan and send off increasingly refined rockets permitted them to keep gaining ground, even as NASA battled with its Venus missions. During the 1970s, the Soviets sent off two tests, Venera 4 and Venera 5, in what is viewed as perhaps one of the most thrilling decades in space exploration. These dual send-offs permitted the Soviets to assemble information from the Venusian air and surface. Venera 4's success prompted the continued improvement of further developed spacecraft, including Venera 5, which was designed to gather extraordinary data about Venus circumstances. The 1970s saw the Soviet Union enter the most exceptional period of the Venera missions. Venera 7, sent off in 1970, was the primary spacecraft to communicate information from another planet's surface, providing vital data about Venus' temperature, and pressure. Later missions, such as Venera 13, captured variety all-encompassing photos of the planet's surface, offering rare insights into Venus geography. Regardless of certain losses and failures, the Venera missions were crucial in expanding our understanding of Venus and space exploration overall. During the 1980s, the Soviet Union's Venera 13 outperformed past missions in complexity, capturing detailed pictures of the planet's surface. When the Soviet Union stopped operations in the mid-1990s, the Venera program had achieved far more than anyone had expected. The legacy of the Venera missions lives on today as Roscosmos and NASA prepare for the joint VD mission, scheduled for the late 2020s or mid-2030s. This new mission expects to research Venus' air, geography, and history in order to uncover indications of past or present livability. The Venera missions paved the way for future missions to Venus, Mars, and beyond, and their accomplishments continue to shape the future of space exploration. The upcoming VD mission, a collaboration between Russia's Roscosmos and NASA, represents an astonishing new chapter in the ongoing investigation of Venus. Set to launch in the late 2020s or mid-2030s, this mission will focus on studying the planet's air, geographical history, and potential signs of past or current habitability. The spacecraft will be equipped with an orbiter, a lander, and possibly an inflatable structure designed to explore Venus in exceptional detail. The VD mission not only aims to expand how we understand Venus but also highlights the enduring legacy of the Soviet-era Venera program, which remains one of the most ambitious and significant space exploration efforts ever undertaken. As we look ahead, the lessons learned from the Venera missions remain relevant to current and future planetary exploration missions. The technological advancements achieved by the Soviet space program, such as the development of durable materials capable of withstanding extreme temperatures and pressures, have been essential for subsequent missions to Venus, Mars, and other planets in our solar system. These advancements in spacecraft design and instrumentation laid the foundation for modern space exploration and continue to inform mission planning, technology development, and operational strategies. The Venera program's impact extends beyond the scientific and technological domains. During the Cold War, the space race was a contest of scientific achievement as well as a means of asserting ideological dominance. For the Soviet Union, making progress in the Venera missions was a demonstration of its technological prowess and a significant marker in the competition with the US. The global community closely followed these achievements, recognizing the Venera missions as a crucial part of humankind's expanding understanding of the universe. Every success, such as Venera 7's soft landing on Venus in 1970, was not only a scientific triumph but also a powerful political statement. The success of the Soviet Venera missions was not without its challenges. Working in Venus' hostile climate presented enormous technical obstacles, including extreme temperatures reaching up to 450 degrees Celsius (842 degrees Fahrenheit), intense air pressure, and a thick, corrosive atmosphere composed primarily of sulfuric acid clouds. These conditions made it extremely difficult for spacecraft to survive long enough to gather valuable data. Despite these barriers, the perseverance and creativity of Soviet scientists and engineers were crucial in overcoming these challenges, resulting in the successful collection of vital information about Venus' surface and atmosphere. The accomplishments of the Venera missions were instrumental in our understanding of Venus' hostile conditions, from its scorching surface temperatures to its thick, toxic atmosphere. These missions provided invaluable insights into the planet's extreme environment, which is dominated by carbon dioxide, as well as its geographical features, including its volcanic fields and mountainous terrain. The panoramic images captured by later missions, such as Venera 13 and Venera 14, allowed scientists to further investigate Venus' surface composition, shedding light on the planet's geological history and its potential for past volcanic activity. One of the most important contributions of the Venera missions was their ability to capture the first images of Venus' surface, providing a glimpse into a world previously shrouded in mystery. These photos revealed a rocky and alien landscape, vastly different from anything found on Earth. The success of the Venera program demonstrated that, despite the planet's harsh climate, it was still possible to collect meaningful scientific data, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge and expanding our understanding of the solar system. However, not all missions were successful. Some Soviet spacecraft failed to reach Venus or experienced technical malfunctions that prevented them from transmitting data back to Earth. The challenges of operating in such an extreme environment, combined with the technological limitations of the time, meant that some missions could not achieve their objectives. Nonetheless, the resilience of the Soviet space program despite these setbacks is a testament to the determination and ingenuity of the scientists and engineers involved in the Venera project. In addition to their technical achievements, the Venera missions also had significant international and cultural implications. The success of the Soviet Union space program during the Cold War was a source of national pride and a symbol of the USSR's technological and ideological superiority. Each successful mission to Venus represented a victory not only in the realm of science but also in the broader ideological struggle between the Soviet Union and the US. The space race was a fight for global influence, and the Venera missions played a central role in this competition. While the Soviet space program is often overshadowed by NASA's accomplishments, the Venera missions remain a crucial part of the history of space exploration. The technological innovations, scientific discoveries, and political ramifications of the Venera missions have had a lasting impact on how we understand Venus and space exploration as a whole. These missions demonstrated the potential for interplanetary travel and paved the way for future missions. Advancements in technology and knowledge gained through decades of exploration will guide future missions to Venus and other distant worlds as space agencies around the world continue to push the boundaries of exploration. The spirit of the Venera program, characterized by perseverance, determination, and innovation, remains a guiding force in the ongoing quest to understand our solar system and the universe beyond. The Venera missions, beyond their scientific and technological accomplishments, were also a defining element of the space race's international landscape. As the U.S. focused on its Apollo lunar program, the Soviet Union's steadfast commitment to Venus exploration reflected its desire to maintain its prestige and influence. Every Soviet achievement was seen as a direct challenge to U.S. efforts, showcasing the USSR's ability to match, and at times surpass, American accomplishments in space exploration. These missions were not just about landing on Venus. They were a strategic move, a way for the Soviets to project power and demonstrate their dominance in a field that would have broad global implications. Furthermore, the Venera program sparked advancements in spacecraft engineering that would have a lasting impact. The development of heat-resistant materials and the ability to transmit data from harsh conditions laid the groundwork for later missions to other planets. The program also established the foundation for international cooperation, as space agencies around the world recognized the importance of studying planets like Venus, which remain key targets for future missions. The breakthroughs in space travel and technology spurred by the Venera missions continue to benefit the global scientific community today, underscoring the enduring legacy of Soviet contributions to space exploration.